Hi, today I have a special guest that I've been waiting and very excited to listen to and talk with, and his name is Tim. So please help me in welcoming Tim. Hi,
Hi, Christy. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm so happy to have you here. So tell me, what is your biggest life struggle?
Biggest life struggle would be myself.
Yourself.
Myself.
Interesting. Is there self-love problem or a self-hate problem or
Both. Um, and I think that stemmed from my bipolar. I
okay.
really do.
But tell me about your bipolar.
Okay, so at the age of 14, I was diagnosed with bipolar.
Mhm.
I was always up or down. I was either 100 miles an hour or I didn't have no emotions. I didn't want to do anything. There was never no in between with me.
Mhm.
Like I remember being a kid when Christmas came around, I would get so excited. I would actually get sick 10 days before Christmas and
Really?
actually have the flu and have a fever because my emotions were so high for Christmas. Every year for like 7, 8 years in a row, from the age of like 5 to 12, I would get actually physically sick the week before Christmas. And my mom always just thought, you're just so excited for Christmas. Right. And as the older I got, it did diminish because the older you get, you realize about Santa and your parents and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
as a child, I was so excited. And if I didn't get something, I would be so sad to where I didn't want to play. I didn't want to go out with my friends. I just wanted to be in my room. And my mom, we're talking early 80s. So my mom, we didn't really
There
know
wasn't a
anything.
thing called bipolar.
No, we didn't know anything. She just thought I wasn't a very emotional young man. But as I got into middle school and I started playing sports, um, she noticed a change in me. When it was time to, I was on a baseball team, a football team. I was almost a professional skateboarder. So I had a lot of athletic talent. I was a junior Olympic boxer. So I did a lot of things in my teenage years. And when I won, the high of winning would stay with me for almost a week. But when I lost, I didn't. I don't want to play football again. I don't want to box again. I don't want to play baseball again. I throw away my skateboard. I just didn't want anything to do with what I truly loved. And she started to realize, well, that's kind of not normal. Losing's a part of life, and you
Right.
have to get used to it. And I never
Right.
got used to it. I just didn't like it. And if I didn't win, I just didn't want to do it. Um,
Was
that
there any anger issues with that?
it was not really anger, but it was more I would put everything on me. It was always my fault.
Okay.
I would always make me the center of attention of the blame of the reason why my football team didn't win. Maybe I didn't catch that ball. If my baseball team didn't win, maybe it's because I didn't throw enough strikes. I would always take the full blame rather than the team itself. I would always make it about me, a self-centered kind of a
Like
of a,
like your ego took over.
yes, yes. I've always had a big ego. I really have my
Mhm.
entire life. I always have. And that's one of the things I've learned to get over in my sobriety. I still have it, but it's not as huge as it was. But at the age of 14, my mom was like, there's something going on because when you're sad, it takes weeks for you to come out of your bed. You don't shower. You don't want to get your hair cut. You don't want to hang out with your friends. So they ended up taking me and talking to a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and he ended up doing some tests.
And how many years was that into?
I'm sorry.
At how many years was that into before that happened?
So probably I started all my sports at 8. So by the time I was 14, so 7 years.
7 years before you got diagnosed?
Yeah, 7 years before she actually took me to an actual professional, and we
Uh,
actually sat down and did all the testing. And the doctor came back. He's like, I think your son has bipolar disorder. And she's like, what's that? And he's like, you have A, B, and C receptors in your brain, and the A and C are not connecting. They're getting miscommunicated by the B receptor. So there's like misfiring in the brain. And when he gets really high up, he can stay that way because the A, B, and C aren't connecting. So instead of having little tiny valleys and mountains, I would go to the peak and then come all the way down to the very bottom of the ocean. There was no middle ground. It was like a roller coaster of emotions, and there was no I want to say normal emotions, because normal people wouldn't act the way that I did. So when he came out and said I had bipolar, my mom did not want to hear that. No, my son, there's nothing, he does not have a mental illness. He's just a very emotional kid. He's very passionate about what he does. He likes to win because he's very outgoing. And so she denied it from the age of 14 till the age of 16. So I was not put on any medicine. She figured she could take care of it at home. Keep playing your sports. I'll talk to the coach, let them know that you're just really into the sports and you really want to play and you really want to win, and maybe they could talk to you. So for 2 years, nothing was done.
So actually more like 9 years then.
Yeah, technically. But at the age of 14, I was actually professionally diagnosed. So at the age of 16, going into 11th grade of high school, I actually had 5 close friends of mine commit suicide.
Wow.
Age 16 and 17. Yes.
Wow.
Within 5 months.
That's insane.
It made the national paper down here on the East Coast, because they called it the Parkville curse. I live in a county called Parkville, Maryland, and they called it a Parkville curse. And
were any of these planned together? Like, did these boys?
No, but that's what they thought. They first thought it was like a cult, like they were killing each other because they had an agreement to do it. But 3 of my friends, 2 of them killed themselves because their girlfriend broke up with them. 1 of them killed themselves because their parents had to move to Michigan and he didn't want to move because all his friends were here in Maryland. 1 killed himself because he rear-ended somebody in his not in his brand new, but he had a 1968 Camaro that him and his father worked on, and it was all done and refinished. And it was the first day he took it out. And I guess he lost control and hit somebody with the ass end of his car. He went upstairs and shot himself with a shotgun. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, and
you don't think that there's any, like, they never talked to each other about that or got ideas from each other or anything?
So, like, out of the 5 friends,
were they friends too?
2 of them were really good friends. The other 3 were kind of not. But see, I was kind of the person that I didn't hang in a clique. I didn't hang with the sports guys. I didn't hang with the drug addicts. I didn't hang with the rock people. I hung out with everybody. I was one of like the popular kids in school.
Okay.
So I hung out with a lot of people. A lot of people knew me. I was very friendly and very outgoing, and so I had a pretty cool house. We had an in-ground pool, so I always had parties at my house. So everybody kind of liked hanging out with me. I was kind of like a social butterfly in high school.
So in other words, you weren't in one clique.
Correct. Yeah, I hung out with everybody. It just depended on who I felt like hanging out with that weekend. That's who I hung out with. So I knew them from different cliques, as you will say.
What size town was this?
Size town?
The size of the town.
Parkville is actually one of the bigger counties in Maryland. Probably 200,000-300,000 people in our county. I mean, it's pretty.
So when you said these 5 kids, were you talking about in the county or in the town?
School.
Okay, so that's
in the same high school.
So it's in one town. How big was that?
Maybe 10 square miles.
Population wise?
Maybe 5,000. In our
you know what? I'm sorry, but I think that probably gave some ideas.
Absolutely. No, it did.
It had to.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to read something to you real fast, if you don't mind. This is for our readers too. what I was doing when I was looking down at my phone, since I can't do it off the laptop here, was looking up the signs of bipolar. And this comes from, and this is where I get all my information when anything is mental health related or medical, and that's from mayo.com.
Okay, yeah, yep.
So that's where I'm getting my information. So and you can tell me whether or not you've had these, because I don't know if somebody would have all of them or not. So you can answer that. But so we start out with having sad, empty, or hopeless feelings most of the time. That's one. Trouble sleeping at night and staying awake during the day. Is that one of them?
Both of them. Both, yes.
Often feeling worthless or very guilty. Has anybody ever went through these signs with you before?
A long time ago. And when I went to rehab in March of last year, we kind of went over this whole spectrum again.
Okay.
And with bipolar, it actually doesn't get better. It gets worse with age.
Ouch. Okay, work, family, or social life is suffering. All the time. At times feeling very revved up and or irritable.
That's the manic mode. Yep.
Yes. Having one sign alone does not mean you have bipolar depression. If you're concerned, so this is to everybody listening, that you may have bipolar depression, make sure that you talk to your doctor about screening for bipolar. So those, you had every one of those?
Yeah, so there's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2.
Okay.
Bipolar 2's when you don't have all of those symptoms. Bipolar 1 is the full spectrum of symptoms. I have bipolar 1. So
is that kind of like diabetes 1 and 2?
It's more serious. Yeah. And
I mean, like, is one the lesser of the two evils?
No, one's the worst of the two evils.
And in diabetes, isn't it the other?
Oh, I don't know about diabetes. I don't know.
I know. I'm not asking you that. I'm like kind of thinking in my head, isn't?
I'm not really sure. I really don't know. My brother has diabetes. I'll ask him.
Does he take insulin?
He takes insulin. He also has high blood pressure and heart problems.
So see, and I always wanted to know which one is the one that you end up with the insulin and all that. I never can figure out if it's diabetes 1 or 2. Okay. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter now. You don't have that. So let's go on.
So they did diagnose me with bipolar 1. And then, as I researched and got older and we started looking at things, it actually made sense, because when I was in my manic modes, I was an exceptional athlete. I was one of the best people on the team. When I was a boxer, I made it all the way to the Junior Olympics, almost the Olympic team, because I would train harder and longer than everybody else. I couldn't get unfocused. I was so laser focused on what I had to do, I wouldn't come down. That would lead me to not sleeping for hours. And if I did fall asleep, I would have racing thoughts of thinking about what I had to do the next day. And I couldn't really get a full night's sleep.
Gosh, that almost sounds like somebody on cocaine or something.
Yes, no, it really is. Like, you can't close your eyes. And as soon as you close your eyes, you have all these pictures and images going through your head about what's going on in your life and what you have to do and how you can try to solve them or fix them or how you can do that. That's been all the way like that my entire life up until March 5th, 2021, when I got sober. So all the way from the age of 14 until 24. So
what happened when you got, how did things change when you got sober? What did that have to do with the bipolar, or didn't it?
Medicine started to work because I wasn't doing drugs and alcohol. Okay. As long as you have drugs and alcohol in your system, it doesn't matter how much medicine they give you, none of it's going to work because the drugs and alcohol are in your system.
Gotcha.
but I always denied that. And I never told the doctors I did drugs and drank alcohol. So they would always switch my medicines. Well, this isn't working. Let's up the milligram here. Oh, you've been on that for 6 months. Okay, well, maybe that's just not for you. Let's try this medicine. And then, oh, that milligram's not working. Let's up that. Well, if we do these two together, they might work. Well, if those two aren't working, why don't we try these three together? So for 20 plus years, I was on this buffet of different psych medicines that never seemed to work. And it was always stemming from my drug addiction and my alcoholism, because it wasn't allowing it to do the job that it was specifically made to do.
Wow. Okay, so then let's go to when you started. Did you start drinking first or doing drugs, or both at the same time?
My very first time I ever drank was 9th grade in high school. We had a freshman year party, like everybody going to high school. My buddy had a party and I drank, and I got so sick. The whole next day I was throwing up. I mean, the whole hangover thing.
And that wasn't enough, huh?
No. Well, my mom knew I was drunk, and she was having a summer party, and she made me shuck 50 ears of corn as my punishment. And she said, I don't care if you get sick all day long, you're shucking all these ears of corn. People are coming over by 1 o'clock. Make sure they're shucked. So I did that. I didn't touch alcohol until my senior year after that. So from 9th grade all the way to senior year, I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs.
So my punishment kind of helped.
That, and I was so sick, and it was the first time I drank. And honestly, I remember I didn't like the taste of it. I think I was just doing it to have fun at the party and to kind of fit in my 9th grade year, because it was like 3 different high schools or 3 different middle schools coming together to the one high school. So I was kind of like, I was socializing, trying to meet new people and stuff like that. So, but my senior year, I already signed up for the Marine Corps. Okay. So I already knew I was going into the Marines as soon as I graduated.
Well, you get tested for drugs and stuff then, don't you?
Get tested for drugs. So I was like, you know what? I got a whole year before I go away to the service. I think I'm going to have some fun. So I started drinking. I started doing LSD. I started doing PCP.
I forgot LSD was even around. Is it anymore?
Yeah. Mushrooms, LSD, PCP. I started smoking pot. And I started drinking on the weekends. And quickly, the weekends started to run over into the week. And about halfway through my senior year, I found myself cutting classes, going and getting high, drinking with my friends. Grades started to go down. But at that point, I didn't really care, because I knew I was going to the Marines. I wasn't going into college. So I really didn't care. As long as I graduated, it didn't matter to me about my grades and doing well in school.
Okay, now stop here. I want to ask you something, because this always amazes me, but I also like to get that message out there. So first of all, were both your parents at home, or did you come from a one-parent home, or?
That affects me still to this day. So at the age of 6 years old, my father and mother got a divorce.
Okay. So that we'll go to that.
Yeah.
But so you had just your mother. Did your mother was she not aware that you were skipping classes? Did she not see that your grades were going down? Or she was probably busy working.
Had 2 jobs. She had 2 jobs to take care of me and my brother. And she would very rarely check my grades, just as long as she knew I was getting up and going to school in the morning, and that I was home when she got off her second job. Mm-hmm. And I ate and I took a shower and was ready for school, and I didn't seem like anything was off.
Isn't that, and this is something that I want to get out to parents, and I'm not blaming them, okay, because my parents both worked, and I mean, I know the routine, they got home from work, and mom had to cook, dad would go take a shower, then we'd eat as a family. And by the time mom got us kids taking our showers and doing our homework and all that, after we ate, dad was passed out and I don't mean from doing anything but working, but he worked long hours. but in the recliner, with the TV on and mom's telling him to go to bed. And I mean, that's just how our life was. And after when we went to our rooms to do our homework, they never saw us again. We could be sneaking out the window. We could have been doing drugs right inside our bedrooms, whatever. They didn't even think about that stuff. And I'm not putting blame there. I'm just saying that's the way that it was.
Life, it happens. It really does.
But so the message I want to get out there to parents is to try not to try to pay more attention, even though we're tired or whatever it is, but check their grades. Go in, make an excuse to go in their room to say goodnight, or I just want to sit down and spend some time with you. Those kind of things so that you can hopefully stop them sooner.
Yes, absolutely. And I do that.
Congratulations.
I have 3 girls.
3.
One's 23. She actually, very sadly, she just moved out last week. So that was a little hard.
That's hard.
That was a hard one, and half her stuff's still here. She's coming to get the rest of it this weekend. So
that'll be
that's been
rough.
that's a rough one. And then I have a 14 and a 10-year-old. But they're happy because the big sister moved out, and now my 14 and 10-year-old
So they have their own rooms.
Now they get their own rooms, and my 14-year-old is really excited because she gets the whole upstairs where I made a whole big room for my older daughter, because I actually have a 3-year-old grandson.
Okay.
So he had a room. She had a little kitchenette, a whole walk-in closet, a bathroom, a living room area, her own bedroom. Like I made the whole upstairs almost like an apartment for her.
Right.
So my middle daughter is absolutely through the moon. She gets to move upstairs.
She gets a little apartment.
Yeah. So, but I check on them every day. How was school? What did you learn today? Did you have a good day? My 10-year-old she's the sweetest out of all 3. She's the sweetest and most caring one. My middle one is both me and my wife. She's a little sassy, but she's very caring. And but she doesn't have that many friends, kind of like my wife in high school. She hung out with her own group of friends, where I hung out with everybody.
Yeah.
And then my oldest daughter is a spitting image of me, but a female. She actually has bipolar.
Does she really?
Yeah, she does.
You know what? That's one thing I didn't see on there. Is it genetic?
Apparently it is, because apparently
so.
my mom's father, who I never met, he died at the age of 52. He died before I was born. He actually had mental disorder. He had bipolar and schizophrenia. And
now, how did they
else.
know that? How did they know he had bipolar when that wasn't even a thing?
Maybe he didn't say. They said bipolar, but he had schizophrenia, multiple personality, and something else. And then as my mom met her other sisters on that side of the family, they said, be thankful you didn't grow up with that man, because he was an alcoholic, he was a pedophile, and he beat your mother up. So.
And you think that came from being bipolar, or schizophrenic too?
Probably schizophrenia. I mean, and to be that nasty of a person, and I kind of wonder if my addictive personality also came from that side of the family as well.
So they did have addiction too?
Yeah, a lot of my cousins, a lot of my aunts and uncles, actually on both sides of my father and mother's family. And it's funny because my mom never has done drugs in her entire life. She drinks a beer like once every 5 years, and she doesn't even finish it. So she's never really she never really drinks alcohol. She was actually a professional bodybuilder when I was growing up. So my mom was extremely healthy and fit. And my father was a police officer for 36 years. He would drink on occasion. He never really had any issues with alcohol, and he never did drugs himself.
And so, okay, well, first of all, I want to tell you what I found, and then I'll ask you that other question. It says bipolar disorder is frequently inherited, with genetic factors accounting for 80% of the cause of the condition.
I didn't know it was that high. Wow.
Yeah. So that's pretty high. It says if one parent has bipolar disorder, there's a 10% chance that their child will develop the illness. So There you go. Um,
Yeah.
so the other thing I wanted to ask you, since we brought your parents into it, and I know we're kind of going, but I really want to cover this stuff. Um, did you see your dad often? Was there a good relationship there?
No, and there still isn't.
Mm.
So at the age of 6, he left, and my brother's 10 years older than me. So he's
Oh, wow.
actually 10 and a half. He was almost 17 at the time when my father left. And I remember as a kid, my father leaving and him telling me all the time, I'll come back next weekend and pick you up and we'll go to a park or you can come spend the night with me. And I cannot tell you how many times I had my bags packed waiting at the front door. And my mom would get the phone call, your dad's not coming again this weekend. He had to work or something else came up. It happened so much as a child that there was a point when my dad said he was coming to get me. I didn't even pack anymore because the chances of him coming to get me, I knew were slim to none. And it really affected me.
Right.
It made me feel as if, why wasn't I good enough for my dad to stay around, but he stayed around till my brother was almost 17 years old? Was I the reason that him and my mom got a divorce? Why didn't my dad love me? What's wrong with me?
So now that you're an adult, have you talked to him and ever asked him those questions?
So when I got out of the Marine Corps at 22, I bought a house on the same street as him. We were
Wow.
literally 30 houses away in townhouses. And I lived there for 5 years and I saw my dad 3 times. So up until this past couple years, I never forgave him for leaving me. I always blamed him. Well, why didn't you love me? Why haven't you ever reached out to me to try to have some type of relationship? And he wouldn't tell me this. He would tell my mom, because they still talk. It's not my job. He's the child. He's supposed to reach out to me. I'm the parent. He's supposed to come to me. And here I am as a child or a young man thinking, well, you're the parent. You should be coming to me. I'm your child. So we would always.
So there was visitation and everything set up, but he was the one making the excuses not to come, but yet he's going back and saying that you should have went to him.
And come to find out,
that sounds egotistical to me.
So as I got older and as I realized it wasn't my fault that my father liked other women and he liked to run around with my mom couldn't take it anymore. And I realized it wasn't my fault. It's then I realized my dad was a self-centered, egotistical
narcissist,
always about himself, and he still is. I mean, he's 75 and he hasn't changed. I haven't spoken to my father in 3.5 years. I haven't seen him in 3.5 years. This Sunday coming up will be the first time I've seen him in 3.5 years because he's coming to my daughter's baby shower. She's pregnant again. I'm having another grandson. It'll be the first time I've seen him in 3.5 years. And he called my mom last week and asked her for my phone number because he doesn't have it. And she said, well, what do you need his phone number for? He said, well, I like to reach out and speak to him because I haven't seen him in 3.5 years. And I don't just want to see him on Sunday after not speaking to him. He still hasn't called me. So,
interesting.
When I went to rehab last year and the therapists were talking to me about my father, because honestly, I use that as a crutch to drink and drug. I use that as a reason. I was like, well, my father didn't love me. I'm just going to drink it away. I don't want to think about it. I just don't want to have those emotions. I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to feel worthless. I don't want to feel unworthy of his love. All I ever wanted was my dad to tell me he loved me.
So that child is still in there. And is that something that you're working on?
And through
there's a saying that we need to forgive and then we need to forget. But I believe, this is just my opinion, that yes, we need to forgive. Okay, because if we don't forgive, we've got that sadness in us all the time, and it's not just sadness, but anger too. I was told by a minister that if I didn't forget, then I really wasn't actually forgiving. But I think that there's certain actions and certain things that either we've done or somebody else has done to us that we need to remember so that we don't repeat those same things.
I agree with you.
Okay.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. During my newly found sobriety, I have come to not forget what he did, but I have chosen to forgive him because I can't change the person that he is.
Exactly.
And my mom says he loves me, and I hope that he does. He's hasn't said it to me in a very long time. Like I said, 3.5 years we haven't spoken, but I now know my father's an egotistical narcissist asshole. And
maybe he doesn't even know that. That's,
I think he does.
you think he knows?
He's one of these.
You think he would admit that he's narcissistic?
Oh no, because that
The
would take
ego.
away from him. Yeah, absolutely. He's one of these guys.
So that's what I'm saying. Like he might know certain things, but until you actually accept what you are and do something about it, you really don't know. Somebody can tell you over and over again, this is what you are and you need to get help and whatever. But if, especially narcissists, most of them don't say, gee, you're right, I am. The first thing they're going to do is go, bull.